It's 2025 now, and manufacturers have now settled into their new product lines. And that's because manufacturers had to phase out 410A in their new equipment. So manufacturers had to design their equipment using either R454B or R32. Now the question has become, with these new product lineups, who now makes the best HVAC systems? Well, let's talk about it. Hi, this is Kenneth with Atlas AC, and at any point during this video, if you find it to be helpful, please hit the like button, and that will really help me out with the YouTube algorithms. To get things started, I'm going to first cover some of the changes that we have seen in the industry. Then after that, we're going to look at each of the top brands and what they're specifically good at. Because it is very common for manufacturers to be really good in certain areas, but maybe weak in other areas. So when navigating the HVAC industry, it's really helpful to know the manufacturer's strengths and weaknesses. Before we go any further, if you have a favorite HVAC brand that you like the most, leave a comment below on what brand it is, along with why you like them. So some of y'all might be familiar with this chart. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail here, because if you want a full understanding of all 27 brands in the HVAC industry, you're going to want to watch this video next. So out of all these brands on this list, what we're going to do is compare all the ones that are considered to be the flagship or the best brands that a manufacturer offers, which are these brands here. And that is Carrier, Bryant, Trane, American Standard, Daikin, Lennox, Rheem, and York. Now Bryant is pretty much the same thing as a Carrier because it comes off the exact same assembly lines and uses the same technology. And that's also true for American Standard and Trane. So whenever I'm doing my apples to apples product comparison, I'm not going to include Bryant or American Standard in this list, because I don't want to double up on similar products. So if you're a big Bryant or American Standard fan, you'll just need to look up and find the comparable equipment. So what we're going to do is compare the product groupings of each one of these brands. And we're going to try to track down who offers the best single-stage systems, two-stage systems, side discharge systems, and high-end communicating systems. And as a quick disclaimer, as I was putting this video together, I was trying to include heat pumps and straight cools together. So as we're doing side-by-side comparisons, we're only going to be looking at the heat pumps to keep things clean, because that's the direction that the industry is going. And most of this information will bleed over to the straight cool lineups that these manufacturers offer. With that out of the way, let's keep moving. So if you're interested in who makes the best basic system on the market that's cost effective and reliable, you're going to want to skip to the single stage portion of this video. If you're looking for something more middle of the road with increased efficiency and comfort, you're going to want to watch the two-stage and side discharge portions of this video. Or if you're interested in the highest end communicating systems that these brands have to offer, you're going to want to skip to the communicating systems. Okay, so last disclaimer before we get started. We do sell Carrier as our primary product offering. We also sell Goodman as our budget line, and they are manufactured by Daikin. With that being said, I'm going to do my best to keep things as unbiased as possible. And as we go through our list coming up, if you want to get rough pricing on Carrier for a comparison, you can check out our website. So here's the list of all the single stage units that we're going to be looking at on this list. And for brands, we have Carrier, Daikin, Lennox, and Trane. And you might be asking, I thought Rheem and York were included in this list. Well, in their new R454B lineup, they no longer make single stage heat pumps. Their entry level heat pumps now start at two stage. So that's why we're not seeing them on this list. Now to keep things moving along, let's go through this chart real quick. So right after the brands, we have the series of each unit. And you can see how Carrier has two different series on this list, a Comfort and Performance. The Comfort is their entry-level HVAC systems, and the Performance is their mid-tier systems. Both of the Daikins on this list are entry-level systems, and Lennox Merit unit is their entry-level units, and their Elites are their mid-tier units. Trane's Choice series are their entry-level units. Then after that, we have our model numbers, and as a quick side note, we are only comparing heat pumps in this list. And that's because their straight cool units are going to be fairly similar to these. This first section here that has to do with staging, capacity, and communicating all have to do with the comfort of what these units are able to provide. So temperature control, humidity control, and so on. This next section here has to do with the efficiency of the systems, and HFPS for heating efficiency. After that, we're going to look at how loud these units operate, what kind of warranties they offer. Then from there, we're going to look at the overall reliability and pricing. Now in this section in regards to comfort, there's not a whole lot to see here, because all of these units are a basic on-off system, so you're just going to end up with very little temperature and humidity control. So I have everything marked at 2 stars on this list. And the only thing to note here is this Carrier Performance model does do lightweight communicating, so the indoor and outdoor units can kind of talk to each other, but it's not a learning full communicating system, so it's going to contribute very little to the comfort of the home. But you can at least see error codes if there is something going on with the unit. And next up we have our efficiency ratings, and you can see that this Lennox and Trane units are the most efficient on this list. Now, as a side note, manufacturers are putting their best numbers forward. So depending on the size of the system and the AHRI matchup, the actual SEER rating at the end of the day might be lower than what this is showing here. Next up, we have our sound ratings. And this carrier performance model does operate the quietest on this list. Now, when it comes to warranty, Daikin does have the longest warranty on this list, coming in at 12 years for parts, while everybody else on this list has a 10 years parts warranty. And when it comes to reliability, Carrier and Trane are typically known as the industry leaders in this category. That being said, the contractors will play a big role in this, because if the equipment is not installed correctly, no matter how good the equipment is, it's just not going to last. And when it comes to pricing, these 3 units are going to be the most expensive on this list, while all the other ones are going to be about the same. Okay, so another side note. Contractors are going to play a really big part when it comes to pricing a new AC system. For instance, I'm aware of a couple contractors in our service area who will price a basic bare bones system for around $30,000, while we're selling it for a third that price. So overall, if you're interested in a basic single-stage system and you're looking for something a little more efficient, these would be the top 3 units to consider. If your AC unit is right outside your bedroom and noise is a big deal, the Carrier Performance is the one that sticks out the most in this list. And for warranty, Daikin does have the best in this list. And if you're looking for something a little more reliable, you can't go wrong with a Carrier or a Trane unit. And for pricing, these would be the most competitively priced systems. Okay, so that covers single-stage equipment. Now let's take a look at two-stage equipment. So a two-stage HVAC system is considered more to be in the middle of the road when it comes to product lineups. It's not going to be the cheapest or the most expensive. It can provide better temperature and humidity control over a single-stage system, along with increased efficiency. So I wouldn't consider it to be a top-of-the-line system, but it is going to perform quite a bit better than a single-stage system. So here's our handy-dandy sheet that we're going to use to compare all of our HVAC units here. The first thing to note is all these systems are heat pumps, except for one, which is this Linux system here. And you might be saying, Kenneth, I thought you said that we're only going to be looking at heat pumps. Well, I wanted to include this Linux system because I was just curious about its performance. The next thing to note is the Rheem Achiever model and the York YH4 are both their entry-level models, while everything else on this list are true mid-tier models. And lastly, you can see that Trane is not on this list. And that's because they discontinued their two-stage systems and replaced it with a multi-stage system. So the 3 primary areas that are going to be impacted the most in performance over a single-stage system is the overall comfort that it provides, the efficiency of the units, and lastly, pricing. So each one of these units do come with a 2-stage compressor, and its operating capacity is going to start around 70%, and the majority of the time these units are going to be operating in the first stage. And this does help reduce the number of hot and cold spots a house could have, so better temperature control, and since it's running longer, it's also going to dehumidify a little bit better. And when that first stage can no longer keep up, it's then going to ramp up to the second stage at 100% working capacity. And when it comes to how the indoor and outdoor units talk to each other, the Daikin 2-stage system is the only one that is fully communicating. The Carrier Performance and Linux Merit systems both have lightweight communicating. And as far as I know, all these other units are non-communicating. So when it comes to the overall comfort that these systems can provide, Daikin is going to be slightly better than everybody else because it is a fully communicating system. Now, it's not going to be hugely dramatic because at the end of the day, it's still a 2-stage system and not a fully variable, so it is limited in what it can do. Then after that, we have the Carrier Linux mid-tier Rheem and mid-tier York units. And I did lower the overall comfort rating of the entry-level Rheem and York. And that's because they're designed first and foremost for budget and not necessarily comfort. And here we have the max cooling and heating efficiencies. And Carrier does have the highest SEER rating on this list, coming in at 18.5. And just under that, we have Daikin at 17.2 SEER. And right under that, we have Linux at 17 SEER. And for heating efficiency, Carrier is also the highest in this category as well, with an HSPF2 of 8.5. And Daikin is right under that at 8.2 HSPF2. And once again, the Linux system here is a straight cool system and is not a heat pump, so there's no heating efficiency. And keep in mind, when manufacturers are posting their efficiency ratings, they are putting their best foot forward. Meaning, depending on the indoor and outdoor matchups and the size of the systems, it can lower the efficiency ratings. And when it comes to sound ratings, Carrier does have the quietest system on this list, followed by Daikin and Rheem. But overall, we're not seeing a substantial improvement over a single-stage system. Daikin does have the best warranty on this list, coming in at 12 years on parts, and everybody else is offering a standard 10-year on parts. Now, the reason why Daikin is offering a 12-year warranty while everybody else is offering a 10-year warranty They're just simply a far lesser known brand. And it's kind of like how Hyundai and Kia offer a 100,000 mile warranty on their drivetrains, and Ford is only offering a 60,000 mile warranty on their drivetrains. So they're offering a longer warranty to kind of stand out. And when it comes to reliability, Carrier is going to be the most reliable on this list, because in the HVAC industry, Carrier and Trane are constantly battling for the top slot in this category. And keep in mind, if any of these systems are not installed correctly, reliability goes right out the window. And when it comes to pricing, Lennox is most likely going to be the most expensive on this list. After that, we have Daikin, and that's because since it's a fully communicating system, it's going to drive up the install cost. The cheapest on this list is going to be the Rheem and York entry-level models, while everybody else is going to fall somewhere in between. So overall, the two units that do stick out on this list is the Carrier and Daikin. Daikin can do slightly better when it comes to comfort. Daikin also offers a 12-year parts warranty, while Carrier does a little bit better on efficiency, noise, reliability, and price. So now let's shift gears and talk about side discharge units. So side discharge units are kind of like the new kids on the block in the HVAC industry. They are smaller, lighter, fully variable HVAC systems. The condensers might look familiar because they're very similar to what is used for mini splits. Some manufacturers are betting big on them, thinking that it's the future of HVAC, and other manufacturers are struggling to find where they belong in their product lineups. So here's our list of side discharge units that we're going to be looking at. So Carrier has two on this list. The first being a low heat option used for a more southern region, and the second being their high heat option that's used for more of a northern region. And Daikin has 3 on this list, and the bottom 2 on this list is rated for cold climates. And Lennox has 1 on this list that is also designed for cold climates. And Rheem has 2 side discharge units on this list. Trane has reduced their offering to 1 side discharge unit, and it's also rated for cold climates. And York also has 1 on this list. So half of these units on this list does have a cold climate focus. So this section here has to do with the comfort that these units can provide for your home. And the first thing to note is most of these systems on this list are fully variable, which ends up giving them a very broad operating range. And Trane is marketing their side discharge unit as a multi-speed system that doesn't have near as low of an operating capacity as the others on this list. So the Carrier and Daikin units can operate anywhere in between 25% all the way up to 100% working capacity. The Lennox, however, I'm not completely sure on, and that's because they don't market their operating ranges. However, I do know their operating ranges are going to start anywhere in between 25% up to 40%. And Rheem is going to operate anywhere in between 45% all the way up to 100% working capacity. And Trane is going to perform anywhere in between 70 to 100% working capacity, and York starts at 35% up to 100% working capacity. So the lower the working capacity that these systems can operate at, the better the temperature and humidity control that you can get out of these systems. And when it comes to how the indoor and outdoor units communicate, in order to match up to provide better comfort, you can see that Carrier, Daikin, and Rheem all have fully communicating systems. And as a side note, this is not Carrier's premium communicating system. They also have the Infinity, which is also a learning system, which is actually far better than this one. And as for Daikin, this is their premium communicating system that they offer. And for Rheem, this is part of their premium communicating lineup. And when it comes to max efficiency, you can see that Daikin, Lennox, Rheem, and York were all able to accomplish a 1902, which is pretty impressive. And for heating efficiency, Carrier was able to accomplish 10.8 HFPF. So an important thing to keep in mind when looking at the efficiency of a side discharge system, the efficiency is going to vary quite a bit based on the size of the unit that you're needing. For instance, I've seen some units promoted as 19 SEER, and then whenever I looked up the AHRI matchups for a 5-ton system, the best they could do was 14.3 SEER. So you're probably going to want to get the AHRI matchups to verify the efficiencies. And when it comes to sound levels and operations, this is really where these side discharge units stand out because they are very quiet. And the quietest on this list is Daikin. At its lowest operating speed, it's running at 45 decibels, and its highest operating speed is going to be operating closer to 72 decibels. And for all these units on this list, when they operate in 100% working capacity, they're going to be running around 70 decibels. And I just wanted to point this out because most of these are only showing the lowest operating decibels. And when it comes to warranties, Daikin does offer the best with a 12 years on parts, and everybody else offers a standard 10 years on parts. Now when it comes to the question of who's going to be the most reliable, that's kind of going to be a hard question to answer, because for some of these manufacturers, they've only offered a side discharge unit for the last few years. Now my opinion on these units is I don't think that they're going to last as long as a top discharge unit. Because physics says that every time you make something lighter, smaller, and more compact, it ends up wearing out faster. But at the end of the day, only time will tell. Now, when it comes to pricing, most of these are going to cost more than a two-stage system, and the cold climate models are going to be the most expensive. Other than that, there is nothing that dramatically sticks out. So overall, where we use side discharge units is for homes with narrow lot lines because of how much room you can save with one of these units, or if you have a condenser by a bedroom and it's just loud keeping you up at night, these units are very quiet and can help with that. And lastly, if you're living in a home that you're planning to move out of in a few years, and you're looking for a fully variable system, and you don't want to invest in the highest end systems available, then a side discharge unit could be a good fit. Now overall, if we ask the question, who makes the best side discharge unit in the industry, it is clearly Daikin. And Daikin is actually betting the farm on side discharge units. They even got rid of their premium top discharge units. And now this is the best of the best that they have to offer. Okay, so now let's get into the fun stuff, which is the highest tier products that these manufacturers make. Okay, so here's our highest tier product list that these manufacturers make. And there are a couple things to note before we jump in. And the first thing to note is I am only looking at heat pumps. And the reason for that, it was just going to take too long and be too confusing to also include straight cools. That being said, this Carrier Infinity right here is a cold climate system and only comes in 4.5 tons. So its offering is fairly limited. These two Linuxes right here are also cold climate rated, but they also come in all tonnages. And this train here is their cold climate rated system. And this is the model that they came out with to replace their two-stage systems in their product lineup. And for this York here, I don't even know if it's available on the market yet, because it took a lot of digging to find it. So now let's take a look at what kind of indoor climate that these systems can create. Now, most of these systems on this list use inverters and are fully variable. And for this train unit here, I'm not quite sure if they're using a inverter, but they're marketing it as a multi-speed system. So let's just go with that for now. And the nice thing about a variable speed system is they have a broad operating range. So it can do a better job dialing in exactly what the home is needing. And next we have operating capacity. These two Carrier units here do have the lowest operating capacity. So it can go as low as 20% working capacity, all the way up to 100%, and anywhere in between. Carrier's cold climate unit can operate as low as 30% all the way up to 100%. So not quite as good. Now when it comes to Linux, this one's fairly hard to say because they do not advertise their working capacity. So I had to call in and they told me that the lowest working capacity of these units are going to be anywhere in between 25 and 40%. So I'm not really sure where these units land. And for Rheem, it can operate as low as 40% all the way up to 100%. And it looks like it has an extra high gear where it can ramp up to 115%. The cold climate train can run anywhere in between 70 to 100%, and the train premier line can run anywhere in between 25 to 100%. And for York, we're looking at 30 to 100%. And the reason why capacity is important is because the lower operating capacity that a system has, the more dialed in and year-round comfort it can give you. And next up we have communicating, and pretty much all these systems on this list are fully communicating systems. Now I can't speak for everybody on this list, but I did have a sit-down conversation with a Carrier product specialist back a year ago to get some more clarity on what these systems can do. So basically he framed it that the best way to look at it is these are learning systems. So once these systems are installed and the thermostat is set up, it's going to learn the best way to control temperature, humidity, and air balancing specifically for your home. So basically it doesn't operate like a cookie cutter system. It figures out the way that you like things and how to maintain that, whether it's hot, cold, rain, or shine. Now I'm sure other systems on this list can do something similar, or at least do a variation of that. So overall, once you tie together a fully variable speed system with a broad operating range, along with it being fully communicating, the HVAC system is just going to be able to provide a high level of comfort and precision. Now let's switch over and take a look at efficiency. And when it comes to cooling efficiency, Carrier and Train are leading the pack here, with Carrier coming in at 23 SEER2 and Train coming in at 22.4 SEER2. Now as a side note, these are only heat pumps, and if we looked at straight cool systems, Linux does make the highest SEER rated system on the market. And on this list, Carrier makes the highest SEER rated heat pump on the market. So I just wanted to clarify that when it comes to an industry leader, Linux does make a system with the highest SEER rating. And now when it comes to heating efficiency, Carrier's cold climate heat pump is able to deliver 12.5 HSPF2. We have Train able to deliver 11 HSPF2, which is their cold climate heat pump. And when it comes to sound, Train offers the quietest system on the market. In its lowest level of operations, it is running at 51 decibels. And when it ramps up to 100%, it's operating at 76 decibels. Now as a disclaimer, most of these systems on this list is showing their lowest level of operating noise. Once they ramp up to 100% capacity, they're going to be running in the mid-70s decibel range. Now let's go ahead and take a look at warranties. Now this one's kind of all over the place. So the first carrier, Infinity, on this list offers a standard 10 years parts warranty, and the next two carriers here offer a 10 years full unit replacement. And the Linux Elite models offers a standard 10 years on parts. Their Signature series offers 12 years on parts. Rheem has a 10 years full unit replacement. Trane offers 12 years on the compressor and 10 years on parts. And York offers lifetime on the compressor. So who's the best one on this list? I don't really have an opinion on this list. It's more like pick your poison. When it comes to reliability, Carrier and Trane do lead the industry in this category, and they have now for many years. And when it comes to reliability, the bedrock is the install, because if the design and the install are not done correctly, these systems will not perform correctly or last as long. Now let's take a look at pricing. These units are going to be the most expensive systems that these manufacturers offer. So these 3 units here are probably going to end up being the most expensive on this list. And these 4 here are probably going to be the more inexpensive systems on this list. And as a brand, Linux usually comes in as one of the most expensive brands. Then after that is Trane, then after that is Carrier, and then Rheem and York. Now when it comes to pricing, contractors do play a really big role in it. And you always want to use a contractor that best satisfies your questions, along with a very clear design and solutions for your home. Because if you're dealing with a contractor where there's any lack of clarity, that most likely means that there's going to be some corners cut. So in other words, if I was working with a contractor that was $2,000 higher more than another contractor, and they're thorough in their design and solution, and were able to answer all my questions, and the other contractor just wasn't able to quite lay everything out, I would recommend just paying the $2,000 extra dollars. And that's because these machines can run around $20,000, and that investment is not worth throwing away for $2,000. So overall, the highest performing systems on this list that's going to provide the highest level of comfort and efficiency is going to be this Carrier here, and right after them is going to be this Trane unit here. Now, if you're solely interested in comfort and efficiency is not one of your top priorities, these Carrier Linux and Trane units might be your best bet, because they're going to arguably do the exact same thing as their more efficient, more expensive models. Alright, so quick summary and conclusion. When it comes to single stage systems, we have Carrier followed by Trane. And for 2-stage systems, we have Daikin and Carrier. For side discharge units, Daikin is dominating. For the highest end premier lines, we have Carrier followed by Trane. If you found this video to be helpful, please hit the like button. We also have free buyer's guides and price lists on our website that you might want to check out. Until next time, have a good one.